suffering is translation of Sanskrit called dukkha. Dukkha. Pali also dukkha. Dukkha, meaning of dukkha is non-satisfaction. You cannot satisfy. Cannot appreciate what you have. Always need more. Feeling of not complete. Feeling of something missing. And that has many different levels. But when we translate into in the West, many texts say suffering. But I think when you hear the word suffering, it's more like you feel like pain, or you only think about the pain, obstacle, problem, having hard time, more like a lot of feeling of very unhappy feeling, yeah. But whether we use translation as suffering or non-satisfaction, the meaning is the dukkha. Dukkha means more like problem, more like non-satisfied, always feeling of not perfect. Okay. And this, what we call, maybe I will use now term as suffering, because normally I using these words, Today I'm going to use. But suffering is not only the pain. Even pleasure, feeling of pleasure with the grasping could be suffering. I will tell you this meaning more later. And the suffering is very important to practice also. For example, the first teaching of the Buddha was already achieved enlightenment in India under Buddha tree in the center part of India, like Bodh Gaya. Then after that, Buddha went to Varanasi, giving first Dharma talk, the first wheel of training Dharma. And there's five main students of Buddha. The first teaching, when he teaches to the 5 main disciples. The beginning of teaching is, Bhikkhu, life is suffering. So the beginning teaching is the suffering. Looks like very depressing. We come here to learn that the teaching which is for liberation, freedom. But the teaching beginning is, life is suffering. Looks like depressing. But actually, Buddha said, the practice of what we call the first noble truth. The first noble truth is the suffering. Life is suffering. So this is very important. The practice of the first noble truth is knowing suffering is suffering, knowing nature of suffering. So if you know nature of suffering, then you can free from suffering. So one of the best way to eliminate, to be free from suffering, to recognize suffering. For example, Buddha said suffering is like disease. So if you got disease, then you have to check with the doctor. Lot of check. You have to check with the blood, X-ray, or different tests, the blood pressure. You have to spend a lot of money for checking what disease you are suffering, what disease you got, what kind of disease you got. So first you have to spend a lot of time to see, to check, to examine. Then you know how to eliminate the disease, yeah? That's why similar here. First important is to recognize suffering as suffering. If you not recognize suffering as suffering, then you are one with the suffering. And then it's almost like you fall into the river and you are carried by river. But if you look at the river, if you're aware of the river, then you are already out of river. Then you can see it. If you are in the river, falling into the river, you cannot see, you suffer, you cannot see the river. This is why develop awareness of suffering is very important.